I'm Scott Al Miller. It's the 30th of July, 2023. This is my vlog of daily life living in Nicaragua. And today we are starting a tour, a private tour, where we're going down to San Juan this morning, San Juan Del Sur, and we are traveling across the country to take some people around and look at different parts of Nicaragua. We're really excited to be bringing this to you. We are unfortunately not able to film on the road, so I'm going to be filming at home and just filling you in on it, which I'm very disappointed that we didn't have time to do more and get you a lot of amazing footage from the trip, so I apologize for that. Just want to preface, so no one's looking for that as we go, but I think we have an interesting story for the day, so we're going to get to that right after the bump. I'm recording today's update using the boom on camera mic because we've had so many audio issues with the lavalier, and I have no way to really troubleshoot it because my daughter Liesl is doing the video editing and everything's happening at the last minute. So because of that, there's no allowance for if there's something wrong with the audio. So sorry if it doesn't sound as good as it used to, but it should sound better, way better than when the lavalier is cutting out. I am working on trying to diagnose that. I believe it is the media kit that I'm using, which is actually not the best thing to be the thing going wrong. It'd be cheaper to replace the microphone, but okay. So that's what we're testing. So that's why it's a little bit different today. Bear with me. Today, so we did a bit of driving, and I was really hoping to do a bunch of filming during the day for you guys, but as always with these things, nothing goes to plan, and filming while on the road is super difficult because I can't really film in the car because of the amount of noise it creates, and it's not very good because the car is all blacked out. You have to, pretty much, living here in Nicaragua. It's worth noting, right? If you're going to live in Nicaragua, you're going to have blacked out windows. If you have blacked out windows, it's not good for doing GoPro filming in the car, which is not a big deal, right? But it means if you put a camera in the car, basically you get your face like normal, but the thing that makes it interesting normally is that you can see the outside world. If you look at my old videos where I did that while living in Texas, for example, we had a lot of amazing footage. I'm always like, is my hat straight? Amazing footage because you could see the world going on outside. We also had a minivan which had a lot of windows, so it was very open and visible, and it looked great. And you're like, oh, that's some pretty cool footage. You don't want to do it all the time, but when you did it looked pretty good. And now, because we have the car, so there's very little window space, and what is there, the back window is just loose plastic over it. So it's completely blurry. You can't see a single thing. And the side windows are like blacked out, so you can really not see anything out the windows practically. So unless I'm filming out the front windscreen, you can't really record in the car. So that takes away that option. Plus it's noisy, right? The roads are noisy, the car is noisy. We got to be running air conditioning or have the windows down, then you can't hear. So there's just no way to record there. And then when we get places, it's very difficult because we're working, right? So having the camera and stuff doesn't normally work. So we were hopeful we were going to be able to record on the trip, but I'm just going to update you guys about it. So we have a couple that is doing a tour to learn more about the coastal regions of Nicaragua and whether it is an area they may be interested in relocating to in the near future. So Marcella and I left at about 8:30 this morning, which was a little bit later. We really wanted to be on the road by 7, but just no way to make it happen. As it was, I had 2 hours of sleep. And it's so many work things come up that require me because this is a work day. So trying to get things done that no one else can handle first thing in the morning so I can get out the door, really rough. But got that done, got out the door, was free for the day, didn't have any work problems all day. That went pretty decently well, really, in the grand scheme of things. We got gas and coffee at the Pronto as we left Leon, and then just hit the road. Actually had a pretty good day on the road. It's just so far to San Juan del Sur. It always seems like it's not that far, right? It's kind of around the corner. It's almost 4 hours. No matter how you do it, it seems to take 4 hours to get there. It should be a lot closer than the Costa Rican border, but it's not. It's the same. But it was a beautiful day. It was bright and sunny, but not so unbearable that it made it problematic to drive. It was just a really beautiful sunny day. So that was nice. Had a good drive. But 4 hours, that put us at basically noon getting into San Juan del Sur. And they were actually staying in Talanguera, I think I have that right, which is the town just north of San Juan del Sur. They kind of share the beach, but there's a river in between. They're clearly two separate communities. So they're staying in Talanguera. So it took us about 20 minutes to find them there, pick them up, and the plan was get on the road and kind of make our judgment calls as to where we were going to be going from there, so that we could kind of play it loose, talk about what they discovered, because they've been in San Juan now for a few days, and they've gotten to feel a little bit about what they like, what they don't like, what they're interested in, and so forth. So we did that, got and talked for a little while, and originally we had Popoyo as a possibility, a possible stop today to take a look at, but based on the factors that they were feeling, we ruled out Popoyo and went on to the beaches of Carazo. That is, we drove up to the Jinotepe, Diriamba area, and then headed west. But before we went west, because it is kind of late, we swung into the Malaysian vegetarian restaurant there in Jinotepe and got lunch, which was really cool because some of my viewers were there. So we got there quite late, like it must be like 1:30 or 2 o'clock easily by the time we got to that restaurant. So they're kind of closing down. They don't do dinner, to the best of my knowledge. I think they're just a lunch place, which is amazing because they're fantastic. Maybe they just shut down in the afternoon and reopen for dinner. I don't know. But I do know you want to be there on the early side because it's a buffet. So you want all the freshest food, the biggest selection, like everything going on. And later it's like, well, here's the items that we still have. They go down to their core, right? They still have rice. They still have the chow mein, but they may not have, the mushroom steaks that they have in smaller quantities throughout the day. The more expensive items that they can't just keep refreshing. Anyway, so we were eating there. So there's actually only like 2 tables in the place. And the other table, they got there just after us, was a couple sitting one table behind us. So they were kind of facing Marcel and I, and the couple we were giving the tour to had their backs to them, and I didn't notice them notice us, but while we were eating, apparently they were like, wait, is that YouTuber? And they looked me up and were watching my videos, and they're like, yeah, that's actually him. And Marcella was wearing the Scott Allen Miller vlog t-shirt, so I don't know if they saw that, but if you see that, like, it really gives it away. Like, obviously she's wearing the vlog shirt, but when they went to leave, they stopped and said hello, and so shout out to them. Hey guys, they actually live in Jinotepe and watch the show, so really cool that we ran into someone there. I run into people in Leon with some frequency of that recognize me, and I've had it happen on the street in Granada, but I've never had it happen in like Managua, like it's too big. To have it happen in Jinotepe is really interesting because you're so far away from like our home zone that it was very surprising. It was really cool, and of course the couple's like, do people recognize you all the time? I'm like, actually, yes. It's like a thing. Like, it's pretty funny. And I never would have guessed that would happen, but it's such a small country that it really does. It's really interesting. So then we went from there, drove through Diriamba, actually had a little bit of an adventure. I had no idea about this. So I've been going in and out of Diriamba for the last 3 years, and I know it a little bit, but we never like drive around town or spend time there. So there's a lot of it that I'm not very aware of, and really I want to go all of that region. The Carazo especially, I love that region. I just don't spend enough time there, especially for you guys. I don't take the cameras and like hang out in Carazo doing filming, and I absolutely need to because I think it's fantastic. It's fantastic from this is just a really interesting part of Nicaragua perspective. It's also all of the cities of Carazo, which is Jinotepe, Diriamba, and San Marcos. They are actually very strong considerations for a lot of expats, for reasons we should go into on a whole show about Carazo and dig into those towns. But they're beautiful towns, incredibly safe, lots of cool options, smaller cities, and near to a lot of things. Very convenient. They're very convenient cities. They're kind of the central cities, but small. And Mexico has a similar thing where there's a number of very classy, beautiful, small central cities just north of Mexico City that constitute a very important region of the country, but one where the individual cities are not popular enough for their individuality to really come through for the most part, and so they're more seen as a group. And so that's how this is here. But so we went to Diriamba, and we were trying to get the road to the beaches, and I missed the proper road and ended up going like on the west side of town and finding out that this is a town that actually has quite a few hills. And we ended up on, I had no idea this existed, tiny European style roads on hills where the car wouldn't fit through, that like you ended up getting stuck, and really rough roads where the car could barely pass, really steep hills. We were amazed by the whole thing. We're also amazed at how bad the roads were. Like, I need to walk it all and show you because it'll be super interesting to see this as part of Nicaragua, because we aren't, especially in Diriamba, I don't think of it as being hilly. I mean, you don't think of it as being flat, but you don't think of it as being like mountainous to where you have like road problems, but they actually do. I want to show it, but we got stuck. I had to like back out of long roads because we ended up on corners. The car couldn't make it around and impassable streets and roads that I had to creep over, and like just turning the car around was a problem because the road was so uneven that as soon as you turn the car, it would rock back another way from the weight going off. It was something. So that was a little bit of an adventure. Finally got back onto the proper road and headed out to the beaches. Now the drive from Diriamba to the beach area, which there's 3 main beaches of Carazo, and that is in the north is La Boquita, in the middle is Casares, and in the south is Huehuete. And there are some little beaches in between, so like, you know, don't write and say, like, you forgot some beach. Look, there's 3 big beaches. Everything else is a really small beach that fits in between those, or just on the edges of them or whatever. But Carazo is a relatively small beach zone compared to the slightly larger Managua and way bigger Leon and Chinandega areas. And so pretty much there's this one road that comes out of Diriamba, and you take it, and it is the most stunning drive. It is like going through a national park in the United States. It is broad shoulders with beautiful just grass and then big trees on the side and sometimes open fields. And it's kind of hilly because it is a hilly area and you're heading towards the ocean. And everyone remarked, it's absolutely gorgeous driving out to these beaches. So just doing the drive from Diriamba out to this zone is cool on its own. So that's great. So we did that. Had a wonderful drive. It is unreal how full that drive is of people and things in the street, though. That was one of the most communities and animals just hanging out in the road I have ever witnessed in Nicaragua, which is mostly the most I've witnessed anywhere. When we go out to Las Peñitas, for example, on the road that you can hear the cars behind me, that you will see people walking on the road regularly. Like to go all the way to Las Peñitas, which is slightly shorter than the drive out to the beaches in Carazo, you will always see someone on the road. Like that's just going to happen. But they're not in groups hanging out in the road. They're not sitting on the road. Like it's way more like people on the sides. You still got to be careful. Like they're close enough to be a problem. There'll be horses on the road, horse-drawn carriages. Sometimes you'll end up with cows or horses in the road. Like you got to watch out for stuff. But it's much more normal. It's much more like anywhere in the country. But this drive to the Carazo's beaches, it was like hordes of people, whole packs of people completely blocking the road, just wandering down. Because it's like this quiet country road. It's like they were surprised that a car would ever come by. And then, you know, but there was traffic. Not a lot. Certainly not a lot. But you could never get up to speed. There was always things on the road, both when we went and when we returned. So an odd thing to need to be aware of, but that is a thing. But it's a slow, gorgeous drive. Be chill, be patient, and just enjoy it, and you'll be safe. So we got out there. So throughout the day, we don't talk about this very often. I need to do an episode on this as well, but there are frequent police stops. And I need to do a whole thing explaining how this works. But Nicaragua is not a police chase country. They don't patrol the roads and chase you and give you speeding tickets in that way. They have police stops all throughout the country, and you slow down for them, and they kind of look at you, and sometimes they randomly select you. Sometimes they're stopping every car. Like there's a number of different things that they do, but you slow down to these stops, and we've seen many of them throughout the day, probably in the vicinity of 8 stops throughout the day. We have not been stopped yet. So we went through 8 stops, but in every case we were waved on. But in some cases they're just for motorcycles, which generally means they're just looking to check your papers, and it's a motorcycle day. On other days it's only cars, not motorcycles. Same thing. All they're looking for is your insurance, that you own the car, and that you have a license. That's all they're checking. Right? They look at it, they look at you. Of course, they're always checking for something wrong. So they're always, looking around. But that's it. Right? It's just look at your papers. These are in order. Have a good day. And so we get stopped like that all the time. You don't really worry about it anymore, right? Like at first you're like, oh no, police stops, it's going to be a thing. It's not. It's just a normal part of driving. You only, maybe 1 out of 10, maybe 1 out of 50 times that I go through a stop do I get stopped. And then it's only 1 out of 10 or maybe 1 out of 50 times it's anything more than here are my papers. And at least one time I've gone through and they're like, oh, we've seen you, just go on, right? Like they already knew who I was because I'd been through one earlier in the day, right? And they recognize me because I stand out a little bit. But this particular, and we talked about it during the day. They're like, why do they do stops this way? And we said, well, one of the big ones is they're looking for drugs because This is a country that really does crack down on drug movement. They're not participating in the cartel system of shipping drugs over mainland. So they're trying to at least make it that it has to go out to sea and be someone else's problem. So they mostly go in from Panama or Costa Rica or Venezuela into the Caribbean and try to make it up to Honduras or farther north by boat, both because it's cheaper and moves faster and because it keeps them from getting arrested in Nicaragua. So they take it much more seriously here, both at the border and within the country, than pretty much anywhere else. Panama also puts in quite a bit of effort, but their land design is the way that the lay of the land there makes it so much more difficult for them, and because their land borders are with Colombia. But so here we got stopped right as we got to the beaches, and it was a full-on drug stop. It was a check all your papers, multiple police come up to the car, open the trunk, look through your luggage stuff. Not a big deal at all. They were super friendly. Guy was joking with us, asking us just normal questions, but that's one of the things they do. They want to see if you're panicking or being weird or don't have a good story. But, you know, we live in Leon. It's like, we live in Leon. They're like, you live in Leon? I'm like, yeah, actually, Sutiaba. They're like, what? That's it, right? They open the trunk, they look around, like, have a good day, right? Enjoy your time at the beach. No problem whatsoever, because we don't have drugs. And so we went from there and drove to La Boquita, which is the northern of the Carazo beaches. Now, Boquita, I like a lot, and I wish we had time to film it. I will certainly go out there and do Boquita filming for you guys at some point. Absolutely, that will be great. But Boquita is very different than a lot of what we show, because you're high on a cliff for most of it, and then you have to take stairs down. And there's actually a hotel there, which is for sale now, that 2.5 years ago, Paul and I really seriously looked at it, to the point where we're calling Dominica. We're like, we're thinking about getting this hotel. It's a 30-room hotel on the cliff over the, and it's still there. It's now for sale again. I don't know that it ever opened. It just was available in the interim. It was a bit of a mess there, but we're still not interested in it. But it was an interesting property, right? Lots of rooms, has a restaurant, neat location, but we got to know Boquita because of it. And I really like that beach, but it's not like the, you know, we're here in Las Peñitas, where we got loads of sand and walk into the ocean, and it's a completely different feel than cliff with rocks. Right. But I tend to like cliff with rocks more. I like to look at the ocean. I don't like to get into it. So it actually works really well for me. You get a lot less sand in your house. You're on the cliffs. You get a lot less salt in your house. There's a lot of benefits to it. You don't have to worry about tsunamis or anything like that. You don't have to worry about the high tide. You don't have to worry about climate change from a tidal change perspective. All of that makes it very attractive potentially. And it's a really nice place. It's beautiful. And we took them down and we looked at the public areas, and they were like, this is promising. Like, they were really excited. Then we went to Casares. Casares is a fishing village, and this is one of the few places where I've had a scary story of all my time here in Nicaragua. And people say, you know, are you ever scared? I've had isolated incidents over a number of years. This is before I moved to Nicaragua. I was here visiting. Paul and I were with Melvin. We were in Casares late at night. It was very dark. It was drunken people. It is a rough fishing village. It's much better now, I think. There's a new gas station that looks really nice. There's a couple of restaurants. It has grown and seems to have improved, like many things in Nicaragua have over the last few years. So I don't think I would generally recommend it to too many expats to be like, you should go look at this village. But if it was the village that you went to and you live somewhere else, I think it's absolutely fine. But so we were there super late at night, just the three of us, years ago when it was rougher, and we were on a little side street. We had been with the fishermen. It's where Paul and I have the story of helping the fishermen put the boats in, because we just went down to the beach and did that. And at some point, some girl came up and was talking to Paul to distract him, and guys came down side streets to get around the car. And nothing happened, but Melvin and I were like, Paul, you got to get in the car. You got to get in the car. But how do you say, get in the car, right, when everyone's that close? And eventually we maneuvered him into the car. I had to get out of the car and be like, Paul, we should get in the car, right? He's completely oblivious to the people going on around us. And then we got in the car and we drove away, and there was nothing happened, right? But Melvin is like, look around, like you're clearly being distracted and there are people approaching the car. This can happen, right? Like there are innocent explanations for it. Like, you know, when you're an American and you're in a place, like the chances that any random person is going to talk to you because you're interesting is a thing, right? There is a very high percentage of girls who will be like, oh, there's an American, let's at least go say hi, right? See if this is someone interesting. So like that's real. It could have been a girl who was actually talking to Paul, and they weren't like talking. It was just like, oh, hey, there's a question about the beach or something, right? It was just a normal conversation. And then whenever something's happening, because like in these little fishing villages, it's super uninteresting in general, right? Like I love the life here, but if you're in a little fishing village in Nicaragua, there's not a lot of activity. Like a lot of different things don't happen. So that a group of foreigners is in a car in the middle of town in the middle of night, and if you're sitting around having a beer and you're like, what's going on? You're the center of attraction. So that people naturally were walking towards the car in the middle of the night because we were making noise and light and whatever. Could have just drawn natural attraction. Maybe none of it was coordinated. Maybe no one talked to each other, but it was a risky situation. It was one of those times where I felt uncomfortable. That's kind of the point, because people actually say, don't you ever feel unsafe? And almost never do I sense a situation where I'm in danger. I may look at a place and go, I wouldn't go over there, right? Like if driving through Managua is a rough spot, I'm not going to go over there, but I don't feel in danger because I'm not dumb enough to go over there, right? Like it's clearly a street I shouldn't go on. You say that in any city, right? Chicago, New York, Los Angeles, Canton, Ohio, it turns out. And so this is a situation where it stood out that I felt uncomfortable. We were approaching a situation where we could have been potentially in a somewhat dangerous situation. That it only felt that way, it only could have been, right? That's important. But so anyway, so we drove out, so we did that, we looked around real quickly, kind of talked about, like, this is the village, you really wouldn't want to own here, but you could very close to here. You just don't want to live, like, right in the fishing village, I don't think. And then we drove on to Huehuete, which I really like, and we have stories from Huehuete as well, because Paul and I looked at that at the same time, and that is the beach where we got on and asked the question, there's nothing listed for sale. Do you know of anything for sale to people on the beach? And they looked around and they said, all of it. Just walk up and make an offer. And it was a real eye-opening moment that we kind of knew that everyone was desperate to sell, but they were very clear at Huehuete. This is a desirable beach, not the top end, but it is a beach that people like. It's a beach that people talk about. It is a beach that really is nice. They have beautiful sand, beautiful lots. It's accessible. You're not like getting into one of those how do you get there kind of situations. It has a paved road, so it's not like El Transito. Like Transito can be fine, but how do you get there? It's awful. But Huehuete, easy. And so even on that beach, they said every single house, if you can get into contact with the owner, they're willing to sell it at a reasonable price. Some of them really cheap. Some of them are going to want, a bit more. So it depends how desperate they are. It depends how much they like the house. But every single one of them is going to be willing to sell. And we were told, right, you are the only buyers. There aren't other people. There's no one else asking, no one else looking, no one knows anyone. No one is putting up signs because it is not worth putting a sign up. There is no one to see the signs. This is really informative, the way that Huehuete was looking at their beaches, and that all this stuff was available. You had to pick your beach. If we decided Huehuete was where we wanted to be, we needed to just walk down the beach, find the place we want, find the owner, and ask. Right. And we did that day. We went and found a place that we really liked and got immediately a tour. All right. The owner wasn't there, but the caretaker was there. Like, of course they want to sell. Let us show you around. And we walked around and really liked the place. And it was on our consideration list, but we found the perfect place in Las Peñitas. So that's where we ended up going. But it was a real consideration. It was very high on our list because the property was so good and the price was so good. So we looked around there and got a feel for that. And the sun was getting low. And we talked about if they had gotten enough information from the Carazos beaches, whether we needed to go to the Managua beaches, that's like Pochimil and that area. There's a lot of little tiny gnats today, and they're getting in my eyes. And so they decided, no, we don't really need to see those. We're much more interested in the Leon beaches. Probably best if we just skedaddle and get up north, because that gives us a lot more comfort, because we have our own hotel. I can stay at my house. We have more logistical power. We can make more changes as we go throughout the day and just play it by ear. We just have a lot more power up north in Leon because that's where I'm based. But also, the Leon beaches offer a completely different vibe to Carazo and Managua. Now, Carazo and Managua beaches are different from each other, for sure. So I don't want to lump them together because someone's going to comment and be like, I've been to Pochimil. That is nothing like Huehuete, and that is true. But I think you can approximate it pretty well. It's not going to be a surprise if you've seen those other beaches. So we immediately jumped in the car and drove on to Leon, which made for a really long day of driving. I was so exhausted. I was in physical pain trying to stay awake and keep driving because I'd only had 2 hours of sleep. I've been up since 6 a.m. and we were getting into Leon at 10 p.m. and I'd basically been driving the entire day. So I was exhausted. The night drive went just fine, however, and it was good. Got into Leon. We actually had to do a bit of searching remotely because it's like, what restaurants are open? I have no idea. Ended up finding really the only thing that's open late is Sua. So we went there, and the food is fantastic, right? So that was a perfect spot to go, and it just worked out really well, right? So we got salads and did a very veggie heavy dinner, which I'm vegetarian, so obviously I do veggie heavy dinner, but we did for everybody. Really nice, healthy, absolutely delicious dinner. That was great. Really good end of the day. So we'd had really good, like starting the morning in San Juan del Sur, lunch in Jinotepe at a really good place, dinner in Leon, really good place, and then drove out to the beach and dropped them off at the hotel. So that was pushing 11:30 at night when we got them into the hotel. And then a little bit getting them situated, a little bit of drama at the hotel as always, which I am so frustrated by our hotel. It's driving crazy. And then we got back to the house. I had to get the video uploaded for you. Liesl did all the editing during the day, and really frustrated by that as well. Discovered that the microphone didn't work on those videos. I'd worked so hard thinking I may have gotten it to where it was going to work. At least we've been able to avoid the microphone completely dropping out, but we're still getting these unpredictable shorts. Sometimes they're in the middle of me talking, so I'll be doing it, it'll record just fine, and then all of a sudden it'll just start shorting out. So there's some problem, whether it's the position the cable's in or whether it gets loose. I don't know if the media kit has a loose connection or the microphone's gotten bad. That's why I got to figure that out. We had no way to edit that and fix it. It was too late. She had already done everything. I have no spare time. We are recording and editing these at the moment it takes to get them uploaded for you. I actually didn't know the one that you saw from yesterday was uploading to the point where it was up like 1 hour uploaded before you guys were supposed to see it, and it takes up to 12 hours for YouTube to process those videos. Generally they do it in less than an hour, but it was really pushing it, and so we have no buffer time whatsoever. So there's no way for me to go back and voice over, no way for me to go re-record, and every moment of daylight, I'm engaged. There's no time, if the sun is out, I can't be re-recording. I can't. I have to be doing stuff. So the only possible time I have to record is at night. So I'm stuck having to do things in the middle of the night if I'm going to do a voiceover, which is a big problem. So needless to say, it was a very long day and a very busy night and absolutely exhausting. I'm super excited about doing tours and getting this going and getting a process down for this and getting the word out to all of you in my show land that this is something we can do and we're actively doing, and working out a process to get the videos going. This is just a really bad time to have audio problems and to be so far behind on the show. So that's extremely hard to deal with at the moment, but it's an awesome day. It's been really cool. I'm really glad we got to do it. Thanks to the couple who is out here doing the tour with us, and to Marcella who's doing the tour with me. This is a really cool thing for me. Like, this is a big personal victory, because I've been saying for a number of years that I'm really into travel and relocation. Like, there's all these things, and obviously I've had a number of people over the years that I've helped move, like Alan, but it's always been very ad hoc, and it's always been very much like someone who knows me asks, and it's kind of this discovery thing, and I've been saying for a long time that this is really something that I enjoy, and I think I have a lot to offer, and could be really good as something that I can do with people. But finding a media to get the word out and a way to engage an audience and to find people who are interested in doing this, and being able to kind of explain what this is, right? We're going to do tours, but probably not touristy tours. We're going to do tours where we help you decide on a country, right? Come do a tour with me in Nicaragua to help discover if Nicaragua is where you want to be. Do a tour of Nicaragua to help discover where in Nicaragua you might want to be. Discover what type of living you're interested in, beach or mountains or city or country, north or south, whatever, how you're going to use the borders, whatever it is you need answered. It's a really unique offering, I think, and something that I hope we're able to expand, that I hope that goes well. And amazingly, as we started this, like 3 different people have reached out to schedule this in the very near upcoming future, and that's so exciting. And I hope everybody's watching and knows I'm like completely out of contact this week. So any scheduling, anything, I'm totally trying to get on top of it, but very, very hard. So bear with me. Very busy work week, but Paul is returning while I'm doing this tour, and it's going to take a few days, but once he's back up to speed, and I will not be covering for the company CEO for 3 months. I've been doing that, right? That I've been the main person covering for a whole bunch of operations in the company, and that's made everything so much harder. So he's going to be back, going to be dealing with a lot of that stuff and taking things back to his plate that go on his plate, and taking some things off my plate that have come up since he's been gone, and we should see a really great increase on the show. And of course, we mentioned, I think yesterday, we got the Sony ZV-1. I have no idea when we're actually going to get it in our grubby little hands, but I'm going to, and that's going to add more stuff to the filming. And honestly, I'm going to be using a lot of the revenue from doing all these projects for you guys, to get more stuff for the show, because that's what I enjoy, right? And it's good for the people who are paying me to do it. Like, everybody wins, right? So sorry that the content isn't exciting. Tomorrow's going to be the same. I got to record at home. There's no way for me to record on the road. Tomorrow it's just going to be the way that it is. Eventually, doing these tours, I think it's going to work out to be able. This is a very tight one, a lot of unknowns, and we got stuff with the car disaster. If you don't know, go back a few episodes and watch what was going on with the car. That everything got shifted and just our week got thrown way out of whack. But it's going, I think, really well with a lot of like makeup for the stuff that's happened. So thanks for joining me. Please remember to like and subscribe. If you like to support the channel, you can buy me a coffee at the buymeacoffee.com/ScottAllenMiller listed above. As always, if you want to reach out about tours like this one, your personalized tour with me to go see the country or all the things I mentioned, info@relocatenicaragua.com. Check out some of the cool projects we're getting involved with, nicarumba.com for event listings, nicaloro.com for a Twitter-like experience, but here in Nicaragua, nicagram.com for an Instagram old-school photo experience here in Nicaragua. Go check those out. Other cool projects are coming. Nica Rumba is taking on a life of its own with new stuff every day. It's awesome. I'm going to be doing my best to bring the updates here on that, just so you know when things are happening for those of you who are following it, because it is something that's very important for those of us who live here or anyone who's visiting. And I will see all of you tomorrow.